I haven't seen you for a couple of days.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Haven't even heard from you in a couple of days.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I haven't, where am I going? Are those signed sheets or anything?
That one is for Tracy Rep.
Well, then that's what I want.
Then move his papers to the next spot.
Yeah, I just. As long as I get to sit next to Tracy. So these are papers
Those are
those are his? Yeah, okay. Andy, that's a good idea. It's not a packet. I'll say. I'll grab you one there.
There's a new agenda with, the date is different from the one you already had done.
Yeah.
Right, we're talking about 27. 39 things that. And the old one that we have to refile, which is adopted in 19. And then like 16. So
And then you just go out and play. I don't even know.
So,
I watched them play against Portland State. Second half.
That's what you said. I said they want.
it was like, this one spells out a lot more responsibility.
I watched Stanford and Bereza last night. Stanford blew them out. I didn't expect that Stanford was gonna be so strong.
Play a little bit bigger.
They did. That's, no wonder you're in such a good mood today.
I was surprised. I went home 2 nights ago.
No, I'm teasing you. I know UCLA was playing last night too, and I just didn't watch them, but I like watching that Johnny Juzak.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Well, it's all stuff I do though.
His hair is something to be admired.
So the other,
No, right, but this fills it out a little more than the current one,
Yeah,
right? So it gives you more,
good, yeah.
gives you more control.
right.
Mhm.
You know, I've been looking at those candy corns for the better part of 2 weeks.
You should eat them because they stayed in there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they'll say, no, nobody.
No, yeah. Don't be
No,
there
you
till
should-
next.
True.
I eat candy. Don't
There
be
might
there
be
till
two.
next Halloween.
There might be 2. There's 6 ones in
I'll
there,
split them
too.
with each other.
Jen and I go for the old.
I don't need 'em all.
God,
Okay,
you know.
sounds good.
I can't either. It's horrid, horrible stuff.
$300 worth of candy?
Okay. I come into the house and I said, what's in that bag? It was 2 brown paper bags. He goes, candy. I said, you mean to tell me you went and spent more money on candy? No, I'm not going to that restaurant. It's too expensive. But you can spend 300 on candy?
I'll eat multiple times.
He just loves his trick or treaters and it's sad that they've all grown up. Yeah. I was sad for him.
We were happy.
Yeah, I'll bring it in till tomorrow.
Did Tracy give you an idea how far out he was?
He had stopped to see Melissa. He said he needed to tell me about it afterwards.
Good story.
So he was hurrying here from Mill City and he stopped there.
Kind of what he said. Or I don't know if he stopped there first or if he saw her yesterday. So we go ahead and call this meeting to order, even though we don't have a full group, because I represent the board, we should be able to start.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody has timelines that they like their day to end on time. So I call the policy committee meeting to order at 3:05. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So,
Presently, Kay Jones is representing the board. And Brad, if you'll go over who's representing the district and share names.
sure. So Brad Capener, superintendent, and I've asked Chris Shaw to be here to talk about, because one of our policies deals with technology. And then I've asked administrators to be here, although the high school is dealing with some stuff right now, so they are excused. But Scott Jancy at the middle school, Chris Sullivan at the elementary school, Kathy Emmert from district office, Patty Truitt from district office, and Karen Cortez from district office, who will be secretary.
Thank you. All right, so we are starting,
I had a few opening thoughts here.
please.
So I've asked Karen to take notes and record the conversation so that we can, any changes that we make here can be recorded. And also that we're making a recording of this meeting so that we can, if she needs to go back and hear what it is we said, we've got that. Hey, Tracy, we just started. Okay. We're just talking about some opening pieces here before we get going. So the meeting is scheduled from 3 to 5, and much of what you're going to see tonight are proposed changes from OSBA that are very minor in nature, small edits. Many of the policies shouldn't take long to review since they're only focused on those small edits. They don't require us to make decisions. They're just, you know, these are the updates that they're making, and they go, great, sounds wonderful. Other policies, however, are going to take a little bit more time as they ask us to make decisions and choose between language or versions of policy. So we'll have a few of those too. In the beginning or before each section of policy, you have a policy update. This policy update gives a quick summary of what it is we're going to be looking at when we look at the policy. So it kind of gives the background from OSBA and what it is they're doing and why. So that's good to look at as we go forward. And the thought here is to just take follow the order that they've listed out. Everybody has the same order, and to just go through all the language that's shaded as something that is a proposed deletion or change or edit. And any questions? Does that sound straightforward? So the first one deals with CBA, which is the qualifications and duties of the superintendent. And OSBA recommends that boards review their current policy and this sample to determine what works best for the district. So we get to choose right now. Karen is given just the board members a copy of the, I don't know, maybe you gave everybody a copy of the sample or the current policy.
Yeah.
That you can see and look at what we have version 3. We have version 3 of CBA. That's the one our district is using, and they are recommending a new version 1, which outlines duties of the superintendent and up to 39 of those, whereas our current qualifications of the superintendent version 3 recommends 16 responsibilities. So when I looked over all those responsibilities, I didn't see anything I wasn't doing. I mean, you know, it was new or something. You know, I think they all make sense. Those would be logical additions. It also said here that the district has discretion of what to include here. OSBA recommends the board review the superintendent's contract and evaluation materials to ensure there are no inconsistencies or contradictions. So I had Karen make a copy for Tracy and Kay of the evaluation and contract in case you wanted to look that over to compare.
I read through just before we started, and on the new version, point 4, the first point 4 that you come to,
Mhm.
I believe for future reference in the distant future, hopefully, we remove to have served as a superintendent. I want to take out the bracket or an administrative experience at a central administration of the school system.
Mhm.
I would like the brackets removed because I want that to stay. Tracy, you see what I'm talking about?
I'm right, I'm on CBA,
Right.
What number do you want?
which,
Number
Number
4,
four.
the first number 4 you come to. Says serve as a superintendent. And then there's bracketed language.
I agree with
So
that.
take that.
Take out the brackets. Now, I haven't quite figured out how the dark, the highlighted areas take the place of the previous word. Is that correct?
I think it's in addition
There are
to.
additions.
Yeah,
Okay, because in point 1, it goes a transitional superintendent license that qualifies the individual to serve. That's why I'm asking. There's several places where the last word is
Is the same, right?
right.
I've noticed that throughout.
Yeah,
It's like
of all-
they're copy and pasting it,
Mhm.
you know, so you would have to
Okay.
take the double word out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be like number 2 would be a master's or doctorate degree
Right.
or higher.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to know which word I'm removing to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm comparing it here to our current one.
So specific functions on page 2. Review data regularly and lead the district in enacting equitable changes to improve educational outcomes for every student. I like that language.
And that's not in the current one, is it?
That would be an addition.
Okay. And then on number 3, act as the district's chief administrative officer, not the board's. Okay. And then in 9, we take out annual,
But regularly
okay?
review adopted board policies and make recommendations. I think that's makes sense because I don't just do it once a year.
No. And then on 11, I like the new language with district programs and activities rather than school program and district activities.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Tracy?
I'm sorry, I was reading something else. Number 11, you said?
Number 11, which is on page 8.
Yes. Not sure. I lost it here.
First page.
Going back to page 6 of 189. Underneath number 4, all the way at the bottom, says the board, the bottom of that paragraph, it says the board may take steps to assist an individual to qualify for such a license.
Mhm.
Help me to understand that. Help me wrap my head around that.
So
Let me try this.
Yeah.
So if we were searching for a new superintendent
Mhm.
and all of the candidates, the candidate that we chose that we liked the best hadn't previously worked as a superintendent, and we felt they were the best qualified, we could take the steps required to go to TSPC, the Teacher Standards and Practice Commission, and fill out whatever we have to in order to get an emergency license.
I had to scratch my head on that one. We can move on. I'll be thinking about that.
So the question is, do you like this version better to replace the current version 3 that they're recommending for deletion? Like I said, I like the fact that they've included up to 39 responsibilities because it's more encompassing of what it is, what the job is. I think it's nice to have that listed out there.
I find the list very helpful to 39.
Back to number 3 on page 6, Tracy, our current CBA policy doesn't have that language in there. It's just an option to have.
Well, what I'm trying to think here is, just so people understand, we're board members involved with, our primary responsibility is policy and hiring a superintendent, okay? From there, Brad hires his administrators, things of that sort. The longer an individual is on a board, the more educated they become, understand, and so on. When it comes to the board taking steps to assist an individual to qualify for such a license, my thought is, what really drains to me is the board qualified to do that? Are we functioning properly in that decision-making process and taking steps to perform this? And that's where it's breaking. Each one of our administrators are all qualified administrators and have gone through the process, okay? Brad, when you were hired on, you had your superintendent's license, but yet you had not held a superintendent's position yet, okay? I have no problem with that in and of itself. But if an individual isn't licensed at that point in time, to me, that tells me they have not completed that procedural process in order to have that license, and for the board to take in turn and assist with that process in order to bring that individual on. I don't know that that's such a good idea.
Well,
Any comments?
part of it has to do with if you're going on a nationwide search, which we did,
Yes.
and you have someone coming to interview who comes from out of state, they may have held an administrative position, a superintendent's position in another state, and not yet have their Oregon license. But he'll have the qualifications and the training that we feel are best suited for our district.
So, yeah, I exactly hear exactly what you're saying, because I know when we went out, you had to have at least held a license in the area that you were located in at that point in time. And if I remember, I say it's hard for me to remember, it's been a while ago, but yes, Kathy.
I might be able to shed some light. The whole licensing process changed for administrators a few years ago. And that's why this policy is reflecting that. Not all administrative license now qualify you to be a superintendent like it used to. And I think that's probably why OSBA is changing this to reflect the change in administrative licenses.
So is it a helpful wording so as not to hamstring the hiring process.
It gives you another option. I think
Okay.
it gives you another option, and that's what I would say. You know, now you have to hold a different administrative license to be a central office administrator as well. So that's why you see some of that language change, because TSBC changed the licensing process and requirements for administrators.
Okay.
I just finished in December of last year, so that's a two-step process.
Okay.
So that's why I think this language is there, Tracy.
Okay, I think I can buy off on that, with that explanation.
What do you think of the 39?
I think that it, the more definitive, written down, understood, broadened out, I'm fine with that. I think it's probably a good idea. So I don't have a problem with adopting or moving forward with CBA with 39. I think it's probably a good idea, good choice.
Are we good to move on?
Yes.
Eric, you good? All right, so next policy is IIBGA, Electronic Communication System. Says that, does the district participate in the federal E-rate program and receive funding for, but not limited to, computers and internet access? If yes, this policy is required. We do, so it is required. Chris, can you just tell us briefly what the E-rate program is and why it's good?
Yes, so the E-rate program is a program that helps fund and pay for internet communication and equipment to help provide internet and computer access within all your classrooms. So from 2001 to 2005, we are scheduled and budgeted $144,000 for projects related to E-rate. This year, we got $99,600 from the emergency connectivity fund, which was set up through E-rate to pay for computers. And when they built the middle school, and we had to bring in Wi-Fi in Wi-Fi devices, it paid $58,000 of that project. So it's a very good program. It'll make it to where we only pay 20% on those type of projects.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So we have two different pieces here. One is IIBGA and the other is IIBGA-AR. So it's administratively, and so that goes into more of the details of the policy. And in the AR, there is some language that we need to choose. But just taking the first IIBGA, this will be required then because we do use E-rate. And is there anything on there?
I'm looking at page 21. In the last paragraph, we've got, and we may have it other places, but I noticed here in the last paragraph, we've got additionally, student violations may result in disciplinary action. So we've got the will may. So we're going to go to may. Is that correct? All right, that's what I wanted to clarify.
I think that was the only place where we had to make a decision. There's brackets on page 20, social media. And I would just include that, right? So
Yes.
take the brackets off of that. But the other pieces are just grammatical.
And we're removing the brackets from the last paragraph that starts on 20. Superintendent will establish administrative rules, regulations for district use, district system, et cetera, and so forth.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there That goes over to the next page.
Yes.
No, I'll go back to that, what Kate was talking about, removing the brackets, the very last point. And it's not a bracket, it's, help me understand that right there.
At the bottom, underneath the line,
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, there's a one there and it gives you a definition of the administration. If the district allows staff to download.
Okay.
Property.
It's a note. Okay, we'll move the AR.
yes, please.
AR, there's some brackets down here, and number 4. Minor as defined by SIPA means an individual who has not attained the age of 17. For the purposes of the board policy and for administrative regulation, minor will include all students enrolled in its district schools. Remove the brackets.
I didn't realize that 17-year-olds were not
Yeah, me too.
minors.
I was just scratching my head on that one.
I think 17-year-olds are still minors.
That's why he wants to remove the bracket, so that all minors will include all students enrolled in district schools. Because we do have 17 and 18-year-olds, but you don't want them to be excluded from this AR.
No, I don't. That's true. Okay, that's the reason for removing the brackets. I'm in agreement for that.
Okay.
And I have to ask, is the 17 part of what the state came down with as being no longer a minor? Is that where the 17 came from?
Yeah, it would be.
Okay.
It would be based in law.
All right, thank you.
Number 5, inappropriate matter as defined by the district, brackets, means material that is inconsistent with general public education purposes and the district's vision, mission, and goals as determined by the district. So just going into the definition of things.
Remove the brackets.
Yes. That clarifies what we're talking about.
Number 6, district proprietary information is defined by the district as any information created, produced, or collected by district staff for the business of education purposes of the district, including but not limited to student information, staff information, parent or patron information, curriculum forms, and like items used to conduct the district's business. I like that.
Means we need to remove the brackets to keep it in its entirety.
Yeah. Page 23. 7. Software, again, is defined by the district as any commercial staff developed software acquired using district's resources. Again, it's just removing the bracket there since we have a definition for it. Okay.
I'm good with that.
Number 2, adding electronic communication system to be more specific. And then it asks for choosing one of the following options for number 3. And Chris, I'd like you to weigh into what you think makes more sense too.
And which number is this on?
It's number 3, page 23. And there's an option A and an option B. And we have to choose one of those options.
You have a copy of it. I need some 5 pages.
Oh, there's there's another packet right there. Yep, there's a full packet.
Chris, you're gonna have to weigh in on this a little bit for me. Currently, is our staff, and, you know, anybody can chime in on this, Does our staff currently use their own personal electronic devices? Question number one.
It's few and far between. So personal phones, people bring their personal phones into the school district, we'll connect them to the network. So that's one item where you got personal devices that are on the network. You occasionally have people who will bring in laptops, and you'll occasionally will have a student who will bring in a laptop.
And Chris, what kind of protections on these personal devices are we talking about?
All right, so personal devices, people cannot access network resources because a personal computer has to be connected to our network and in our domain to be able to access any of our network resources. So when someone brings in a personal device into the school, they can access our internet and get outside internet, but they can't access like our printers or our servers or anything else that's on our network. So that is one level of security that we have. Another level of security that we have is that we do have securely web filtering. And so when people bring in personal devices, it still is routing all of our traffic through web filters. So there is that layer of protection for what people can use or go do out on the web.
Kind of like number three, excuse me, option B, second sentence, the district will provide a system for obtaining prior written agreement from staff for the recovery of district proprietary information downloaded to staff personal electronic devices as necessary to accomplish district purposes, obligations, and duties, and when the use of personal electronic devices is no longer authorized, to ensure verification that information downloaded has been properly removed from the personal electronic device.
Go back to that grayed out ensure, and then right to the left is ensure. Are we replacing that word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tracy, I like B2. To me, it's clearer.
I agree, and it also sets up an expectation that if someone has brought in a personal device to use for work, that we will go in there and make sure that we remove anything that shouldn't be on it.
Just say at the middle school, we had some problems with kids bringing in their own computers because they would have games downloaded and things, they wouldn't be going on the internet, so they would be. So you're saying, since especially we have so many Chromebooks now, they have to use our school Chromebooks. It's just a decision that we made.
At this point, we have enough Chromebooks for one-to-one. There shouldn't be any reason why a student should need to bring in a computer.
And we have a cart in the library, so when they forget or they're dead, their battery's dead, they just go swap out and get a different one. So yeah, it's worked a lot better. Not letting them use their own personal computers at school.
So when we're presented to the board, we're just gonna do version 3B
3B.
and not show them A.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just take the option B out of there. Clean
No,
it up.
we're gonna use option B.
Right, but we'll just say, provide a system for authorized staff to use of personal electronic devices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't show an option at all.
Okay.
We're okay to move to the next page, 24?
On 6, there's brackets.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Install and use desktop or server virus detection and removal software. Move those brackets.
We want to do that. Okay,
Number 9. Brackets using social media and applications. So provide staff supervision and to monitor online activities of students to prevent unauthorized access, including hacking and other unlawful activities online, ensure the safety and security of minors when authorized to use email, social media, chat rooms, applications. So there's be more inclusive of what kids are using today.
makes sense to remove the brackets and to add application.
Same thing for 10.
Mhm.
11, they're adding electronic communications, and 12 doing the same thing. But there are, oh, they're in the brackets as well. So determine which users and sites accessible as part of the district's electronic communication system are most applicable in the curricular needs of the district, and may restrict user access accordingly. Good. 12, determine which users will be provided access to the district email electronic communication system.
Absolutely.
Yes.
13, program its computers to display a message reinforcing key elements of the district's electronic communication system, policy, and administrative regulation of access for use. Do we have a?
Yes,
Message.
so when someone tries to access something that they aren't allowed to access via securely, they get notifications, and there's even a little security jail if someone's trying to access something 10 times within 10 minutes, they get loss of internet access for 10 minutes.
eBay or Facebook or
Correct.
YouTube.
We have a whole list of like policies, and so anything that violates those policies, they get notified. This is a violation.
Sends notifications to the principal and to Chris too, whenever the kid or an adult tries to access it. we notify people.
Okay.
Yes, that's helpful.
Okay, E, adding the words, so discoverable evidence be subject to disclosure. So making it a little bit more explanatory there. Okay, to move on to 25. 25 has brackets, and we have to choose another option. So F, the district may set quotas for system disk usage. The district may also allow system users to increase their quota by submitting a written request to the supervising teacher or system coordinator stating the need for the increase.
That makes sense, because some teachers make more use of the electronic instruction than others, and have greater need for the system disk use.
Okay, to go to G.
Yeah, and I've got a quick question about G before we move forward on that. Some years back, it was, I don't remember if it was before you, Brad, or after you, but passwords.
I know what you're coming to.
Did that get taken care of?
It's taken care of because as Chris monitors, everyone comes in, he puts a password in for you to get in. First thing you're supposed to do is change it to personalize it. And he doesn't personally ask you to give it to him because he has the override as the district IT person.
So you have the ability to get past that password if they have not provided you with that password. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
that's all I care about.
That's the only thing we need.
That's all I care about. I don't want to bring up.
But people's
dust.
individual passwords are their own once they change them.
Correct. So everything's encrypted. I can't see anybody's individual password, but I can sure go in and change it.
Okay, all right.
I actually want to have a conversation about this line here in G. Passwords used on the district's electronic communication systems will be changed at 90-day intervals. And I guess the question I would ask is it necessary to have that in policy to say how many days we're going to do it?
That's the fact that you have to change your password. I've got enough of them as it is, and I can't imagine you
You
guys.
know, I would rather not have that line in there because personally, kids are going to put new passwords in the fall every year. And
So
staff,
right now, to be in compliance with our insurance, we have to do it minimally once a year. That's probably going to change going into the future. They're pushing for more security measures. And the push now is coming from the insurance companies who are having to pay for all the cybersecurity crime that's happening.
What about the adaptation of biometrics?
We could probably go biometrics, but there's costs associated with it. We are using like Clever, which uses like badges for students, especially at elementary level, so that they have badges for logging in that helps manage their passwords. And so that's some of the things that I'm going to be especially looking into this next quarter of the year, because I hear that multi-factor authentication is going to start getting pushed by our insurance companies for cybercrime, and that people who don't have it are going to start seeing increases in their premiums.
So one way or another, it's gonna cost the district.
Correct.
But I don't think we need to necessarily hold ourselves to a 90-day thing in policy. I think we can.
if we have to do it once a year, that's plenty, I think, until they change the rules on us for insurance purposes.
Okay, so let's not add the language in there then for that.
Right, leave that one out.
H, transmission of any communications or materials related to activities regarding political campaigns is prohibited. Is not allowed. So prohibited and is not allowed are both the same thing. So I guess it would be campaigns
Political campaign,
is prohibited by ORS 260, is not allowed.
sounds a little redundant, but it's clear.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Prohibited and not allowed are still the same. Prohibited means no. Not allowed means no.
But see, they're putting that in, this goes regarding political campaigns is prohibited by, and they're giving you the reference, is not allowed.
Okay. Yeah. It's, okay.
Except if you did that, you'd have to take out the word is, which if regarding political campaigns prohibited by is not allowed. Makes sense to me the way you said it, Kevin. You need to take out the is after campaign.
Transmission of any communications or materials related to activities regarding political campaigns prohibited by ORS is not allowed. So you could do that.
It's actually, it clears it up a little by removing the is.
I would remove the prohibited.
No, because that's the fact that the ORS prohibits activities regarding political campaigns.
Well, regarding political campaigns by ORS 260.4 is not allowed.
That's what they're saying, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're taking out the word prior to the shading.
The activity by our, okay, yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're taking out is prohibited and
And
then
then
adding
sliding
that ORS.
by-
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
At 15, ensure all students, and then we just, do we want to add staff? And non-school system users complete and sign an agreement to abide by the district's electronic communication systems, policy, administrative regulations. All such agreements to be maintained and filed in the school office. So first of all, Chris, we already do that for both staff and
We
students?
already do that for both staff and students, and I would highly recommend that we keep that so that we can always refer back to that agreement whenever we have violations.
And where is it stored?
I believe that filing cabinet in the district office.
Okay, then we want to change that in the last parentheses, in the district office. If that's where it's stored,
District, take out school in the district.
right?
Yeah.
And then
And
parentheses.
at what stage do we have these students, what age group, what campus do we have these students sign?
I believe that currently they are signing it as part of their registration forms at all grade levels.
Over here.
Maybe
So ask Chris.
Chris?
Yep.
Kindergartners?
Kindergartner, sorry, someone sent me a weird meme.
That's okay. And I'll read it to you, Chris. It's item number 15, ensures all student, staff, and non-school system users complete, sign an agreement to abide by the district's electronic communication.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
we have
when we're dealing with,
kindergartners.
when we're dealing with like super little kids,
I mean, I think.
they don't really know what they're
to-
signing.
Yeah, I think we need to at least,
Well, at that point, the parents are signing because sometimes they have electronic devices they've taken home or they're
So-
on computers.
Is that basically like something for when we're at, like the registration kind of thing that they're signing up? So yeah, that it's just, so wouldn't all parents though?
But they don't re-register every year.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they re-register
I mean,
every
they
year.
don't fill out the enrollment forms every year. So is that part of what they do every year? Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Okay,
well,
so,
when it becomes a student issue, where a student is signing an agreement, an acknowledgement of agreement, at what age are we holding them to accountable to that? I mean, if you're having your parents do it, that's one thing. But as students get older, they become more,
32,
huh?
page 32.
Very.
Oh, there it is. Good to see it.
Yeah.
This is it.
So does it matter if it's like for the younger kids, if the student does sign it or not?
If they can't write their name, it's kind of hard. It's kind of like
Right, I
putting an
mean,
X on something.
I know, so I'm just kind of, I'm wondering for elementary kids.
Okay,
how is that?
I do have one question on this. This form, is it also translated into Spanish for those parents that don't read English? Or will it be?
It's in the enrollment.
Yes.
Yeah, all of our forms have.
Okay, that's my only.
I kind of see this the same as like them acknowledging at like the elementary level, like the student handbook rules and things like that. It's just an acknowledgement that they've received it. I don't know that we've ever had any issues where that's specifically come up.
Yeah, I get it. It's just, I'm not gonna dive too far into it. We could just have an elementary school kid like, put a, thing on it, but it's.
back to 15, Karen brought up a really good point. For our students, the district office doesn't have them sign off forms, because when they enroll, that's held at the school building, right? So we may not put district here because all that stuff
Okay.
may not be held at the district office. For the employees, they would be, but for our students, they would be held in the school office, right? Is that correct?
Well, since we've gone to everything online too, we don't
Yeah.
keep paper copies. They do all that they
Yeah, just register online.
register now.
Yeah.
But my office manager often goes back, she can go back there and read, so it's really stored electronically.
Right, so we may want to word that differently a little bit. All such agreements will be maintained on file in the school office, the district office, or electronically. Yeah, I don't know how to word that.
You did just fine.
Did I do just fine in the school district or school office, district office, or electronic?
Can't you
Because
just
it's all
say will
stored
be
in
kept
the-
on file?
That's true, could
Yeah.
be kept.
I don't think it's
Agreements will be
important to determine
maintained on
where it's
file.
kept on file.
Now.
I don't either.
All it
And I
does
don't
is
know,
hold you to-
which format it is, whether it's pencil, paper, or.
Right,
Well, remember, that's the school office in brackets, so we don't even have to include any.
right.
Right,
Will be maintained on file, period.
Period.
before the
Yeah.
end, yep.
And
Perfect.
eliminate the end product.
Yep,
But I still, I want to go back to the student issue. We're not. We're. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I really don't. But I like things that are clear, understandable. And we've got a lot of policies that are probably just exactly like this. But when it comes to student discipline and who's responsible for making sure that that is followed, I think it's important to clarify where the discipline, whether you go to the parents, whether you go to the student,
Well-
expulsion, things of that sort.
I think this is talking about the use of electronics.
Yeah.
And since students now have Chromebooks available to them, in order to have the use of a Chromebook, the student at the older levels, but at all levels, their parents are asked to sponsor them on this and understand what they're agreeing to. So I think the way it is, ensuring all students, staff, and non-system users complete and sign an agreement to abide by the electronic communication systems policies and administrative regulations. All agreements will be maintained on file. It's
I think that's
basically
good.
saying we're going to get permission. People are going to say, I'm going to live by the decision so I can use the materials.
So as non-school system users, would that be identified as parents? Pardon?
Could be, yeah.
Could be a community member.
Trying to be all inclusive, of just saying we need to get somebody's permission on there and acknowledgement that people are going to be using the equipment appropriately.
We'll keep going. I'll think about it some more.
Okay, so number two, well, electronic communications, number one needs to add the word electronic communications and then some grammatical stuff in there. Number two, we need to make a choice. So I'm going to read both of them. Students may be permitted to use the district's electronic communication system when consistent with board policy and administrative regulations for school and instructional related activities. Personal use of district-owned computers or devices, including internet and email access, is prohibited, brackets, or permitted when consistent with board policy and administrative regulations and when during the school day. Or staff and board members may be permitted to use the district electronic communication system to conduct business related to the management and instructional needs of the district or to conduct research related to education and when in compliance with board policy and administrative regulations. Personal use of the district system or district-owned computers or devices, including internet, email, access to district staff, is prohibited or may be permitted when consistent with Oregon ethics laws, board policy, administrative regulations, when used on school property and on time. Question, we have a lot of decisions to make. So,
Hey, Chris, what's your recommendation?
Well, first off, I probably wouldn't prohibit any personal use on computers, just because there's probably times when everybody needs to do something and it's not going to be a big impact, and we have the ability to track, monitor, and see what anybody does. So if anybody is abusing that privilege, it's easy to tell. So I would steer away from anything that says it's completely prohibited.
Okay,
I just wondering, like, for me, when I was taking my college classes to keep my administrative list, that was really personal. But I took my computer home and I used it on the weekends. So, I mean, that seems like if you prohibited that, then I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Correct.
but
And I
that's
think,
also under board policy to support staff in getting their education.
Yeah, so it seems like it would, you would still be protected by this, same prohibited, as long as it's like work policy.
I agree, to stay away from the word prohibited, because there are times when we need to. Permitted when consistent with board policy. The next paragraph, so the first one speaks to students may be permitted, the next one, staff and board members may be permitted to use the district's electronic communications system.
Okay, in that, as we get to the top of 26, which brackets do you want us to take out? Because I understand that people need to use teachers take their laptops home so they can prep for the next day or the next week. And I wouldn't want to say you gotta stay on the school grounds to do that, so.
correct.
You just removing the
Parentheses.
the bracketed prohibited in both of those areas.
Prohibited, and then on top of 26, board policy administrative regulations, when used on school property or and when on their own time, or personal use of the district system and district owned computers or devices. Including internet and email access by board members is prohibited.
There've been many times at a board meeting where we've had board members go onto the internet on their phones and personal devices to be able to look up a research item to share with the rest of the board.
Mhm.
Right, and we can just stop it right there after administrative regulations, right, period. And then not have when use on school property
Okay,
and when on time, personal use of district system and district owned for computers, devices. I mean, we could just stop it right there at that end period. I mean, make sure it's a sentence, but
that sounds like an excellent plan to me.
Mhm.
I mean, because we're looking at Oregon ethics law, board policies, administrative regulations,
Everyone okay with that? So putting a period after regulations, crossing out the rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Next paragraph, district staff and board members may use the district's electronic communications system, district-owned computers or devices, including internet and email access for personal use under the same terms and conditions that access is provided to the general public under the district's policy governing the use of district equipment and materials.
That's fine. The brackets out.
Did that? Take out the brackets. Volunteers and district contractors and other members of the public may be permitted to use the district's electronic communication system for personal use when consistent with board policy, general use prohibitions and guidelines, etiquette, and other applicable provisions of this administrative regulation.
So tell me when a volunteer or a district contractor would need to do that.
We have contractors from WSD who use district equipment while working for us. So we got speech therapists, several others that come in from the WSD. Sometimes don't constantly things like that. We have resources for them to use while they're working.
In the past, volunteers have sat with kids when they've gone to the computer room, correct? And helped kids on the computers at the elementary school
I mean, that was,
several years ago.
Yeah, I was
when
gonna say,
we were
that
able to
predates.
have volunteers in. But you don't want to have to rewrite the policy to include them if and when they're able to come back.
And we have guest Wi-Fi available
Yeah.
for people coming in.
Yeah, so- That would be the general population. So if somebody's at a game, And they get
can
online.
access guest Wi-Fi.
Or you can choose the next paragraph.
I think I like all the little paragraphs,
Yeah.
because it breaks it down so you can look at the different groups that you're talking about.
So keep the ones in gray.
Right,
And you don't want number 2.
no,
Moving on, general use prohibitions and guidelines etiquette. I'm gonna try to speed us up a little bit since we're at an hour in and we're still on our second policy. So if there's just anything that strikes you as something we need to talk about, on this one, it talks about the what's prohibited, and in brackets under A, gives a list of options of things that would be prohibited. Any issue with leaving that in? Okay, then we can move over to the next page, 27. A lot of edits in this policy. I'll just say, everyone look at this page, see if there's anything that strikes you as needed to discuss as that we would not want to have in a bracket. If you're okay with everything in the bracket, then we'll just move on.
the highlight on E, which is,
But not limited to.
yeah, but not limited to, includes. So this is the list, but it's not limited to it. And I like that.
Is that, it says attempts to use, represent. Is it to get rid of use, attempts to represent self on behalf of the district? Is that the way it's supposed to read?
I think so.
So we would get rid of use and the. Is there anything that anyone sees that we need to discuss, or are we okay with the edits?
I'm okay with the edit.
G, removing the brackets for system coordinator or teacher.
That's why they're highlighted.
Karen, we will, with this page, just accept all of the edits. So we'll take the brackets off of those and so forth. Okay. Page 28, same thing. Minor changes,
Okay, but it's an either or.
there's an either or.
So it's either everything from A to J, or
That nice little.
that nice
couple of
little
sentences.
sentence that says,
Etiquette.
the use of appropriate etiquette is expected of all users while using the district electronic communication system. Use etiquette as expected for all users explained in district training sessions.
What I kind of liked about the
A through J,
A through J, and when talking about one subject per message, use descriptive heading, be concise, keep message short and to the point, write short sentences. Sometimes it's, I think, kind of good to point that out. I think email communications can sometimes be fraught with issues and unprofessional. And this is not something that is to be like, you need to do it this way, but it is a suggestion or a guide, kind of a guideline of saying, this would be a good practice for how to do that. I don't know.
I like the specificity of it.
As long as you don't hold me to that one subject per email.
It's called update.
Kathy, policy clearly says.
I can feel it tomorrow, I'm gonna have
I'm gonna give you a hard time. So you don't want to accept the or, just the.
Just
You don't
the
wanna accept
top,
that?
I'm good with this, everything spelled out.
Okay.
Tracy, how about you?
Well, I also happen to like appropriate etiquette, you know. I don't know if there's a way that we could wordsmith that and add it and make it a K, you know.
I'm just curious on the or, who's giving district training on email etiquette?
Yeah, okay, but, okay, guidelines at the number, where it says number 2 at the very beginning of it. Guidelines / etiquette, it could say guidelines for appropriate etiquette.
Mhm.
Would you like to add appropriate to the guidelines?
I think it's important.
Okay, then that's where it should go.
Well, it does say it in the header. It says, number 2, guidelines etiquette.
Well, he wants appropriate etiquette.
Oh, in the heading.
guidelines for appropriate etiquette.
Got it. For appropriate etiquette.
Well, are we putting that in the heading, then, just appropriate? Guidelines for appropriate etiquette as is number 2?
Yes.
I'm thinking, yeah. That's
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to put it.
That's the one subject.
Okay, all right, can we move on to page 29?
Well, we've got complaints. We've got the
No.
last section.
But it's right there.
I know, but I was wondering if everyone's okay with that
Oh,
page. So we can move on to 29.
We go through the complaints portion on 28.
It's the introduction.
So it's where,
It refers people to KL.
yeah, Seaboard Policy KL, public complaints and accompanying administrative regulation may be used to process complaints or concerns about violations of policy and administrative regulation.
Do you want to take that may be used?
No.
Or just leave that in?
Yeah, I like it. Page 29, see a lot of mays in there. Adding electronic communications to be consistent with the rest of the policy. Anything there that you want to, gives you pause?
Nope.
Page 30.
Before we do that, item 5, check to confirm the student language aligns with other published discipline or student conduct language example student handbook. Have we verified? I know we're not adopting it, but have we looked at that to make sure that it aligns with it? Do we need to make a change to the student handbook? Yeah, even below that, number 6.
What number?
This is on page 29, right at the bottom. Okay.
Scott, Chris, do you guys, in looking at the handbook, there is language in there about following policy and, you know, and I think this is covered there, but can you confirm that?
You're on one, A, B, and C, or I'm a little bit confused on page 29.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's
it's
looking at the
he's
bottom,
looking
of
the
the
very bottom.
footnote.
Oh, the footnote.
It's the
footnotes
footnote
at
for
the
number
bottom.
6.
but yeah, but there's things like bullying and defamation,
Yeah.
that's all in your student
Yeah,
code of
we have a
conduct, so
student, we have a discipline matrix. that
right,
We
it would be all in there.
calibrated, so it's all in there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not saying one thing and then putting our foot in our mouth in another area, that's all.
Yeah, I would say it does with our middle school. And
Okay, page 30. Again, electronic communications is riddled throughout there, adding that in and the word vendors. Individuals and agencies, vendors that may be accessed in the district's electronic communications. So some of our vendors would be
WSD
WSD.
is probably our biggest vendor.
Okay. Okay with that?
I am.
31, sample parent letter. So it's being recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay, great, thank you. Again, sample parent letters are adding may, and electronic communication systems. Down below, there's an attached letter of the following important documents. This is an agreement for your student and you to read and sign stating agreement to follow the district's electronic communication system policy and administrative regulation. This district's policy, IIBGA, electronic communication system and administrative regulation are accessible from the district's website or upon request and include provisions on, but are not limited to, student use under general use prohibitions, guidelines, etiquette, and student-related rules. I like that so that it's really clear to parents that, you know, what this is and where they can find the information.
And on 32, the only thing I'd like is I'd like to make sure we get the appropriate academic year on the letter.
Academic year at the top.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So this goes back to that one that I was thinking about. In this particular sample parent letter, you know, we're asking students to sign, but in this particular one, we're asking just the parent to sign.
No, this is the letter that goes with it. So it's both.
Yeah, it's a student agreement.
It's a student agreement that the parent and the student are going to be given.
I'm glad they added the email address on page 32.
Yes.
That's an important thing to add. All these changes seem to make sense to me.
So the 32 is the student and parent, and 34 is the non-school system user agreement. And then there's the staff one. On the back on 35.
Yep. There's an or there on 35.
And you approve that it's on that. Yes.
Yeah. We're okay to go to 35, page 35. I will not download or access district proprietary information to personally owned electronic device. I think that's really important. Or I understand that I may use my personal electronic device for education related purposes and that certain district proprietary information may be downloaded to or accessed through my personal electronic device. I agree that any district proprietary information downloaded on my iPad will only be necessary to accomplish district. So this is just going a little bit more into detail and allows a little bit more flexibility, but still says the same thing. So I like that.
I like the second one too.
Yeah.
The second one. First one doesn't work.
Okay, I think we're done with policy IIBGA.
That it means,
Yep.
once we get past it.
Okay, Chris, thank you.
And all I have to do is, stop the meeting and leave the meeting and it should, get stuff, right? Thank you.
And, I can pull
Um,
video off later.
OSBA, so flag displays and salutes, so a lot of these are gonna go pretty quickly, because they're short edits, so hopefully we can get through a good amount here, we'll see. Flag displays and salutes, United States, US, Oregon state flag, and they've added a National League of Families POW MIA flag of appropriate size shall be displayed on or near each school building when required by state law, and in the same manner as the US or Oregon state flag.
Is it currently state law?
I know, that's right.
Okay, it says
It's not required yet.
must only be displayed on or near the building that have existing flagpoles. We don't have any additional flagpoles. We only have a single flagpole outside the schools at this point. Or no, do we have two? Single.
Single.
So we only do the US flag. We don't even do the Oregon flag.
No, we did the Oregon flag.
Right underneath.
underneath the
Okay,
US flag.
that's perfect.
Flag displays and salutes, so, I guess my first question is, with respects to the flag poles, I understand, we have the US flag and the Oregon state flag. When it comes to the Pledge of Allegiance, when I was in school, I did the Pledge of Allegiance every day. My understanding is it's not done every day now, but does all of our classrooms currently have a United States flag posted in it?
We got a flag in all our classrooms and we do the pledge every day.
You do? Okay. My mistake. I was.
Well, no, it's only
At the high
has to be
school,
once a
was
week.
once a week.
Right, and that's what this says,
Yeah, so at least once a week, but it can be more.
at least, yeah.
We do it every day.
Okay.
Do you do yours over the, like, all together, or do you do yours in, like, having your class?
We do announcements and then the announcer says, it's now time for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah,
And then it stops off and then the teachers do it in their class.
The only concern I have is just the infrastructure for adding another flag. And if you look down at the very bottom of the note, the National League of Families POW flag must only be displayed on or near buildings that have existing flagpoles or other infrastructure installed to properly display the US, Oregon, and National League flags simultaneously. However, all district buildings on or near where it is customary and suitable to display the US flag that are newly constructed on January 18th shall include sufficient infrastructure. So,
So we're after 2018, we don't have that.
right, so I'm just saying that I don't know that we should add anything that we don't have an infrastructure for.
So take that,
No, because we don't have it. It wasn't mandated when we built the building.
right, so just take out the National League, that whole sentence.
Yeah, just take out
Yes,
the
takes out the footnote.
and the second.
And the second paragraph.
Yeah,
Okay. The high school. We got a flagpole there?
Mhm.
I'm just, I'm
Right
drawing
at
a
the
blank.
breezeway, right in the middle.
Okay.
Breezeway.
Is that flagpole capable of holding the three different flags?
And it holds two right now, but I don't know about three.
The third one might be too low.
Might be
Yeah.
too low. That would be my
I-
thoughts.
And I think right now we'd be better off to stick with the two flags in
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah,
And I
I
can
just don't
see
want to
adding it.
include, I have a little bit of a heartburn about this, excluding them. Because that's an important national issue. From wartime effects, but if we don't have the ability, thinking outside the box, okay, just because the middle school doesn't have it, the middle school is still on the same property. And properly displaying all three of those flags is still collectively satisfying the need for both campuses, is my thoughts.
Oh, I see. So,
But at the time we built, we didn't know that it was mandated.
No, I understand that.
And I don't want to add the cost of having to add the additional flagpole. Because if you add one flagpole, people are going to say, why don't you add it to the other two schools as well?
Well, we've got the, understood, I just, the question is does the current flagpoles at the two different campuses, are they sufficient enough to display the three different flags? If they are, then I don't see no reason we can't keep that in there. I mean, we can hold this policy and we can set it aside until we get that determined. I don't want to add additional cost to the school district by any means, but
I think if we just leave it out for now, and if we can always come back and revisit it.
Yeah.
If we research it. Okay,
okay,
and if it becomes state law, you know, then we can figure out.
then we'll
how
have to do it.
Yeah. Figure
Yeah,
out
there'll
something.
be a policy that comes out that'll say. things.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Jay-
happening with the basketball.
Okay, JGA, corporal punishment.
we should include.
The staff member is authorized.
It's not optional.
It was it existed when I was in school. I experienced it.
I experienced it too.
Well, I experienced walking by the principal's office and seeing the paddle, but I never had it used on me.
Oh, bro, you're fortunate.
Mine wasn't at the principal's office. I had a teacher spank me in the classroom.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I had a teacher tie up a friend, like a little friend of mine, you know, like as he was being mouthy. She tied him up in the chair in front of the class, took soap, the powder soap, took it and washed out his mouth in front of everybody.
you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
I had to sit on the stool with a dunce hat on. Seriously. And my teacher, you Miss Candy, used a ruler, swatted your hand.
Oh, my, this is.
Middle school.
We're being recorded. How far out is this recording going?
Oh, that's right, this is recorded.
Oh,
Okay, well, now everybody knows our history. So, staff member is authorized to employ reasonable physical force upon a student when and to the extent and the professional judgment, the application of physical force is necessary to prevent a student from harming himself or others during harm to district property, consistent with the ORS. Physical force shall not be used to discipline or punish a student. A staff member found in violation of this policy may be subject to discipline and up to including dismissal. A volunteer found in violation of this policy by administration may be subject to sanction or prohibited from volunteer service in the district, which I think is really important.
That's an important piece, and I like that one, the way it's worded.
So is there anything within our policy around specific training for that reasonable physical force? Or is it just, like, for example, you've got a kid starting to punch a teacher, right? Can that teacher then, you know, like, what are their options? So for example, we have MANT training, right? So I've gone through MANT training, teachers go through MANT training. So I get concerned with policies around, like, if you put, you know, like, what's reasonable for one person might be bruises on a kid, but if you're doing MANT trained holds, those are safe for the child, safe for the adult, and it gives us some protection. And that, but so it's a.
So Chris, what you're asking for is professional development in this area of,
Well, it's
because not everybody gets the training.
well, and so it's one of my concerns with these things is what I tell teachers is to call for assistance so that a MANT trained person could help if there is a child. I mean, I'm an elementary level, so it's,
Right.
you know, But, so a punching, first grader is not an immediate danger so much as, but I don't want them putting hands on a kid unless they've been appropriately trained.
Right, but
Does
this does say physical force shall not be used to discipline or punish a student. But in the sentence right above, it does say,
Yeah.
if it's necessary to prevent a student from harming self or
Yes.
others or doing harm to district property.
Yeah, and it's
So-
also consistent with the ORS, which goes into more specifics of what I think you would probably find more about what reasonable is
This
there.
is the law.
Okay, I just, it could be a conversation too for later, but yes, I'd love to have more training on that just because, especially at the elementary level, hands on a little kid done even with the best intent can really harm somebody. You pop a hand out, you grab a kid by their hand while they're flailing around, you can really pop it out. So it's, how do we make sure everyone's trained?
I don't know if I like the wording in their professional judgment. Professional judgment, actually, with regards to just the word professional, means that you've had training, means that you,
Yeah.
know.
Page 37.
So I completely agree that we need some training and some awareness around it. Completely agree that I also share with you my uneasiness around the word reasonable and professional judgment. I think you're right on. I think though that in the policy, it's okay to have the idea that there can be some flexibility. I mean, you have to be able to, if a kid is about to stab a kid, you need to intervene, and so it needs to be something like that in there that allows that, so that we can protect and allow for that. Otherwise, if it's just, prohibited, then they can't even do that. So I want to have that language in there, but at the same time, we do need to have a conversation around, okay, what is reasonable, what isn't? And that's why we have a MANT training and then we have some real clear expectation and wording to our staff about you don't touch kids and this is why or this is how and that.
Yeah, I think I'm having now looking at this, I'm having a different conversation that we can have later.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and look at that last sentence. The superintendent shall inform all staff members and volunteers of this policy. So maybe that inform could be.
Part of the training.
Does any part of this in anybody's mind actually look as though it prohibits any particular, Chris brought up a point, MAT training, so on and so forth. Student, you got to call for help, need somebody MAT training, okay? Otherwise, the behavior or the danger or the risk can continue to go on until that trained person gets there. And if that's the case in any of our policies, when it comes to stopping a child from hurting themselves or others, I want to make sure that any one of our staff members in the heat of the moment is able to do whatever they can to prevent additional harm over and beyond. Two students getting into a fight. I mean, I'm sorry, I refer to when I was in school. Any teacher could get in between us and break us up at the expense of them also being injured at the same time. Okay. I worry about not being able to take care of the issue.
What if we put the word emergency in this paragraph?
But it already says it, Tracy, in that paragraph. It says a staff member is authorized to employ reasonable physical force. So if a kid is going to jump off the building, I can't punch him in the eye to knock him out so he doesn't jump, but I can restrain him. That's what it means by reasonable.
Well, again, going back to it, Kathy, in that same sentence, in their professional judgment.
Right, so,
I don't really appreciate the word professional in their
Oh.
judgment.
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
I do think that what we need to do then with a policy like this, it's reasonable to have this policy, then our job as administration is to make sure that our staff is appropriately trained, so in their professional judgment, they can utilize the skills
That's
that
what
we
it
teach
means.
them. That's what this means, so, I think this leads to a discussion later of how do we make sure that our full staff is trained
Mhm.
to apply this. So, I think this is reasonable to me. It just opens up a conversation at the administrative level on how do we make sure that all staff are, trained and in a position to respond. Does that
And
make
we
sense?
have a great
Okay.
staff.
And
And we have a wonder, I just never, all my staff are wonderful, nobody wants to do anything that's not, appropriate. It's just making sure they all have the training so that they have that skill set.
okay, but we're dealing with a policy that we're getting ready to implement, as early as next board meeting.
No, this is already in effect. We already have-
Yeah, it's just some wording, and I think what I did, I went down a rabbit hole that I had to ask a clarifying question that really is outside of the policy. It's really like, hey, let's make sure we have the training. You know what I'm saying?
Even with this particular policy, in their professional judgment, we are still at, the educators in our district are current, and correct me if I'm wrong. Professional judgment means that they've been trained, but not all of our staff has been trained in order to take care of those situations that could arise next week.
But
Well,
still,
not next week.
Tracy, if we have, I don't care if someone's specifically trained or not, I have a kid running for track, right?
Yeah.
So that's where this is a very reasonable policy. I think what I was adding on is, let's make sure if we do have staff that may have to restrain a child, that they've been through that training, just, as we move forward. There's a lot of people in my building that have gone through all of that training.
Mhm.
It's just, it would be great for everyone to have that
It would, I
So it's a
wholeheartedly
separate, I
agree with
think,
you.
conversation.
But there's also a level of professional training that all teachers have in terms of, every teacher knows you don't hit a kid, or you don't, Brad, you gotta do this. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not gonna happen, but, advanced training is something different where the kid who's blowing out and what to do and how to contain them. But every teacher's been trained on how not to do corporal punishment and not how to abuse children, right? So there's a certain level of professional judgment. There's a certain level of professional judgment that does exist because of our training as teachers. Then what Chris is talking about is adding to that and getting for specific scenarios that are more heightened and more dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think all of my staff need to do math. I do math every year and our special ed staff do math because we are much more apt to encounter behavior with special ed students that require math type stuff, but.
Yeah, I think this is like a, like admin meeting, kind of like, hey, what kind of, how do we want to do this? But I have no issues with this. It was really,
I think the wording is good.
yeah, the wording's good.
I think, and I understand you're having issues with just 2 phrases.
Actually, I just found the third one.
Okay, what are your 3 phrases that you're not comfortable
A
with?
staff member. We have janitors, we have cooks, we've got maintenance personnel.
Which, if any of those saw a kindergartner running straight out into a busy road, I would want them to be able to grab that kid and keep them from harm.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's
so
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to get to. I want anybody and everybody to be able to.
But it
So it
says,
says a staff member.
That's what it does say.
Yeah, that's what it says. A staff member is authorized to employ reasonable physical force upon a student when and to the extent in their professional judgment, the application of physical force is necessary to prevent a student from harming self, others, or doing harm to district property.
All I want is the word professional eliminated until every staff member has been trained.
But
But
every,
you can't change the policy. What you do by leaving professional in, you're leaving a mandate for our staff to train our administrators to train their staff to have that. It's giving instruction to the district.
when they take their mandatory training, even, and what Brad spoke to as well, they take mandatory trainings at the beginning of the year on what not to do. Like, so when I went a step further on, it's like, oh, might it be great to do even additional training, but it does not mean they don't have the professional judgment to not grab a kid by the hair if they're running, it's like there's definitely that, their professional judgment is, they are trained. So I think I might have muddled it a little bit by saying, oh, I'd love everyone being man trained, it's a step above.
No, I think that I think we need to pull this one, and it needs to be, questions need to be asked at OSBA about litigation and the potential for litigation over just the word professional.
Actually, it came from OSBA.
Yeah.
They put that word in there.
Yeah, this is OSBA sample policy.
Yeah, what they're trying to have us look at is the stuff in gray, but the stuff is, the professional judgment's been in there and it's been existing.
Since 17.
Understood, but not everybody's perfect. I think it's a word. I'm a professional. I'm a professional in construction. A janitor's a professional in janitorial. Administrators are professionals in managing their staff.
And most of ours, in fact, I think all of ours have come out of classrooms.
So a staff member is authorized to employ reasonable physical force upon a student when and to the extent in their professional judgment, the application of physical force is necessary. And I guess what I'm saying is from an HR perspective, I'm going to want to make sure I have two different hats on my living at. So one's an HR hat and one's a superintendent hat. And the superintendent hat is wanting to make sure that every kid is safe in all situations. And so if a kid's running out into a road, that nobody feels that they can't go out there and save the kid because they're going to get in trouble for it. So this policy allows for that person, that gives them permission to go and save that child. There's no hesitancy. So that's one hat. The other hat is the HR hat, where I might have to discipline a teacher for doing something incorrectly, like taking a kid and turning him upside down and holding him there, to because he's angry at the kid, using his anger to try to diffuse a child situation. In that situation, we have a conversation about what reasonable is, and we have a very clear understanding between, say, Chris and I about what reasonable is and is not. And so, showing anger and putting a kid upside down and doing this is not reasonable. And so, so then we go down the HR road of discipline for that teacher for doing that. And they might, the person might think that was reasonable at the time, but they have to come against us and say, no, that's not reasonable. So what I come to, then I point out in this policy, it needs to be reasonable. You aren't reasonable in that situation. And you aren't using your professional judgment. You came out and you've been trained, you know better because you're a trained teacher. Doesn't matter if he's man trained or not, right? Part of becoming a professional educator is you know how to treat and be, work with kids. And so, what I do is point out, you aren't being reasonable and you're not using professional judgment. So if we take away the word professional, I can't say you're not using that professional judgment.
So let make me real clear here. I want this, okay, in the policy. I want this in the policy, but as it is written, I have heartburn over it.
I think, Tracy, what you have to do is we have to, as a board, we have to fall on the educational expertise of our administration to provide the professional training to the staff so that they have the professional judgment. We need to give them the tools, and this is the tool so that they can provide the instruction to the staff.
So I can make a suggestion. One suggestion would be to leave it as it is, to move on. When we go to the board meeting, you can have a conversation there and see, if that's something that you wanted to discuss there. Or we could, pull it and hold on to it and talk about it more. But
No, not in here. What I mean by pulling it is not recommending that we adopt it through the board meeting. That's what I'm talking about, pulling it, okay? That we would have a conversation about this. Okay, not here. I have no problem with moving on. I'd like to have a broader conversation with the board, but with clarification, pre-clarification from OSBA as to my particular concern on what constitutes or what identifies the word professional. The definition thereof and how it applies to this. And whether a parent can come back in spite of this and sue the district over something. So I
guess I just see it a little different, because what I'm saying is anybody can sue the district for any reason.
Sure,
Right?
sure.
And so it doesn't matter what there is, but when we have something on here, what we're saying here, what OSBA is saying from their legal team, that they are embracing this language because they are, what I just stated for the reasons that we want to have these conversations, in scenarios that might come up, they are vetting the language and using that. So I think, and I'm, fine to talk to them, but I think what they're going to say is the word professional is there for reasons that I stated, and because of that, they have that language in there. That language has been in there for years, and so they haven't seen
17 at least.
Yeah.
right? So they haven't seen, if that was an issue, if there were like lawsuits coming because of that misinterpretation or whatever, then that could have been on the docket here for review. Or, it would have been outlined in gray, because it would have been something that, we need more language, or we need to have better language around that because it's an issue. But because it hasn't been highlighted as an issue, means that there's no issues. There's no lawsuits, there's no liability around anybody around that word.
Okay. Moving on.
Are we pulling it?
No.
Approval like changes?
JHCA and JHCB, immunization, physical examination, vision screening, eye examination, and dental screening. And they have added, in accordance with Oregon law, and medical exemption or immunity documentation.
That looks good.
They also added a note at the bottom: the district shall immediately enroll a homeless student in the school selected, even if the student is unable to produce records normally required for enrollment. I think that's important. Physical examination, there's some brackets. Parents will be asked to complete a district health history form when initially enrolling their student in the district, and then registering it for the seventh grade.
I put a question mark there because I don't know if we do it when they come to middle school, which would be grade 6, or if it's grade 7 in our practice.
I would question, go ahead, Scott.
That would have, I think it's when they come to middle.
That's what I thought too.
Because
So it's grade 6.
So let's
Or
change that to 6.
Registering them for middle school might be a safer bet instead of a grade.
What kind of information is in this health history form?
that's also on Registar. I think there's a section in there on immunization, and we also, because we need health history, we need to know if they have a medical plan or if they have a 504.
Asthma.
Yeah, Peanut allergies.
seizures, peanut allergy, yeah.
Okay, so with this, the only question that I have is, and this is, I have no problem with this at all, but I think forward, does any of this information, how we store it, how we keep it,
It's part of FERPA, so we, yeah, it's,
is part of HIPAA?
Well,
FERPA,
Free and
and
appropriate
education,
public
yes.
education.
No, that's fake. FERPA is the right to privacy.
Okay, all right.
it's a school HIPAA.
So just change that to middle school. Registering.
Well, I'm just asking, I think Grants asked the Clean District Health Forum when initially enrolling their student in the district, I think it's. I'm just trying to think, I think it's just when they initially enroll them in the district. And then so new students, we do this, and then they review it every year. So every year they review that health history. And if it's unchanged, I don't think they have to change, I don't think they have to redo it when they get to middle.
What
school.
about Oregon sports? If the schools were managing the sports, when would the physical be required?
It's in the next paragraph.
Okay,
So I don't think we even do it when they register for, because your kids that moved up from 5th to 6th grade, if they were in our system, the parents just go on there and look, and if everything's
Okay, so
unchanged, they don't.
So when enrolling their student in.
When
the
initially
district,
enrolling their
So
students,
take
yeah.
the last few words out.
Hello?
So you want this
Yeah.
to
When
say initial,
initially enrolling their students in the district,
period.
period.
that's practice.
Okay.
And then I did look
Should
through all
there
the
be something in
sports.
there that says, also, well, that's not wording or drafting that came from OSBA, but shouldn't there be something in there that's, basically states and, reviewed annually for
Oh, they
changes?
do when they
Any-
register, don't they?
When they register, they go through this series and it's all online and they just,
Oh, wait,
yeah, so
initially enrolling in school.
that's
So
when they
that's
complete the
every,
form.
that's every year anyways, isn't it?
And then
No, the
within
first
30
time
days
they
of a
register.
transfer to a district. So if a kid moves from Albany to Jefferson, they have to come in and review that in accordance with Oregon law.
You guys good with all the changes?
Yep, because it even refers people to where to get the exemption forms.
There's no changes on page 39.
No,
If the district is causing a dental screening to be conducted, the district will follow the notice requirements of, take out, in accordance with law.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
yep,
Public complaints.
this is the last one we have from the April updates. And the areas we're looking at are
Yeah, it's just adding bias incident to display of symbols of hate, board policy, ACB-ER. It's just updating some
different,
policies that needed to be added in here, sexual harassment, workplace harassment.
which are all part of the ORS is listed on the back.
And policies that have already been updated. That's,
Mhm,
that's the
right.
reference.
Okay. Any problem with that? Okay.
Good. All right.
Okay, when-
So on to the next section, and this one really talks about inserting language, non-discrimination. First one is AC, so it's like gender identity, it's adding some additional language to. we're on page 54. They were okay with the. Yeah, So now we're on to the next section. And this one will probably go really fast because it's adding like gender identity, a little bit of language that we've accepted in the state of Oregon.
Sorry, we got AC.
Yes, sir.
What page is that on?
54.
And these should go probably really fast. Are you guys good with AC?
Yeah, because all we're adding is the gender and gender identity.
Okay.
ACAR. This again, just adding gender identity.
Good.
BBAA, this one we need to talk about. This is individual board member authority and responsibility. And this one came to OSBA's attention actually because of us. So if we look down here, number 2, request for legal opinions. Request for legal advice or opinions by a board member that will incur a cost for the district must be approved by the majority vote of the board before the request is made to legal counsel. The board chair is authorized to obtain legal advice or opinions if advantageous to do so prior to the next meeting. For example, advice regarding an executive session or decision to invite district legal counsel without a need for board approval. If the legal opinion sought involves the superintendent's employment or performance, the request should be made to the board chair. Legal counsel is responsible for the board. So, as you recall, that came up because there was a complaint that Chair Kamwade shouldn't have reached out to attorney ahead of time, and so when we sought clarification on the policy, they agreed that it's perfectly acceptable to call a lawyer in that instance, and it's really set geared toward. We don't want somebody calling an attorney and then also the school district receives a bill when you guys didn't vote on or approve that as a whole.
The
bid.
additional spending.
Right, so there was the distinction was between the cost of the district for one board member going out and hiring an attorney, and then the district being given a bill, as opposed to the board chair seeking out OSBA's advice before a meeting so he can have some clarity.
So would that also include the legal advice that we get from Lisa Freely?
Yeah.
The WESD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it good?
I think it definitely clears things up.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it because it was a little confusing before that.
Yeah.
BDBDA board meetings. All regular special emergency meetings of the board will be open to the public except as provided by law. Access to and an ability to attend all meetings excluding executive sessions by telephone, video, or other electronic or virtual means will be made available when reasonably possible. Because remember, they added the law and that we should be able to stream this now too, right? Make it available that way. So we're just adding that piece in. All meetings will be conducted in compliance with state and federal statutes. For information on how to give or submit public comment, it is outlined in board policy BDDH, public comment at board meetings and or posted on the district's website.
Take the parentheses, the brackets out for that. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. All board meetings, including board retreats, work sessions, will be held within district boundaries except as allowed by law. And then they just added gender identity to the other pieces there: race, creed, sex, or sexual orientation, gender identity. If requested to do so, at least 48 hours before the meeting is held in public, the board shall make a good faith effort to provide an interpreter for hearing impaired persons. And then the note has been added. When telephone or other electronic means of communication is used during a meeting in open public, the board shall make at least one place available to the public where, or at least electronic means by which the public can listen during the meeting. So we do that for OWL. Like, people come in, so,
Mhm.
yeah. Makes sense. Okay, go to page 62. Bracket language, if requested, do so at least 72 hours before a meeting held in public. The board will make a reasonable effort to provide translation services.
Great.
Well,
And
with the subnote,
So no, districts are encouraged to evaluate translation needs and resources prior to adding this language. A district may decide that translating the agenda, minutes, and other documents or public comment is sufficient.
now, how does that affect with our Spanish speaking?
we haven't had any
Population.
requests yet.
Understood. I don't know. Districts are encouraged to evaluate translations. So I don't know what that, at this point in time, I think it's, but have we looked into that and are we readily available to provide that service?
We have through the ESD,
Okay.
I can't think of the name of this,
Like guava.
Lingual, thank you. So we do have that ability.
Okay.
Okay, to go to page 63.
Brackets on, just before number 1, talking about firearms. The brackets need to be removed.
Yeah, possession of leadership. There you go.
Okay.
Minor stuff on page 63.
Capital letters for public meeting law.
Page 64, BDDH, public comment at board meetings. No, no mistake.
There's no change.
Oh, brackets on number 2.
Brackets,
New, it's the
brackets.
yeah.
Yeah, goes into effect January 1st, 2022. So number 2, a person wishing to provide public comment if an opportunity is provided by the board during a meeting for the public will sign in on the public comment sheet provided, complete submit the intent to speak card to the board secretary, submit their name electronically, do so as directed.
We don't submit a speak card.
No.
That's not our practice, so I would leave that out.
Yeah. And
They can submit their names electronically.
then just take out do so as directed.
No, because they are directed on the agenda. If they want to speak in advance, they need to contact the district. So,
That is an option, you're right. They can alert the board secretary that the
ahead of time that they want to speak.
Okay.
So,
Complete and submit the intent to
that's
speak
crossed
card.
out.
Crossed it out. I had to find it, you guys were ahead.
Keep
To
the
the
name.
board
sign in on
secretary.
a public comment sheet
Yep, I like
provided,
that.
or submit their name electronically.
Mhm.
Or to do so as directed on the agenda prior to the meeting.
Submit their name electronically. Do so as directed. Right, okay, yeah, so
On
that's
the
good.
agenda. Do so as directed on the agenda prior to the board
Do so
meeting.
as directed. on the-
A person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting may comment on a topic not on the published agenda. May comment only on agenda items.
Which do you want? Tracy?
I don't want to hamstring our constituents.
Okay, so it's just the first one.
Yep.
Second bracket goes away.
Number 4, a person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting should state their name, whether they are a resident of the district, and is speaking for the organization. Should, you want to have that in there?
Yes.
Wait a minute, can we go back to 3 for a minute? A person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting may comment on a topic not on the published agenda. So if there's a complaint. I didn't think about.
If it's a complaint, it needs to go through the complaint process.
There's another board policy about complaints about.
And
Yeah.
remember, they can speak about anything, but remember that there's also Terry reads the thing, these are the
You
things.
can't say anything about staff. You can't name people individually.
And they're just making comment at that point. They're not, that's
Okay,
really not the way to make. a
no,
complaint.
that's
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Brad.
All right, 5. Person giving public comment is limited to an established time of 3 minutes. That's what we said. Statement should be brief and concise. The board chair has discretion to waive time limits or extend the overall time allotted for public comment. Additional time will be allotted in a fair and equitable manner.
I
Time
agree
limits,
with that.
time limits will be determined based on the number of commenters and the amount of time available for public comment.
Since we don't
That one up.
take that one out, because we've only done the limited comments because we don't time all of our agenda items. If we timed all of our agenda items, then it would make sense to
Right,
divide it by the number of speakers you have, but that's not the way we do it.
okay. So we'll take out the brackets from 3 minutes. The board chair has discretion. And we'll cross off time limits will be determined that line.
Yep, I got that crossed.
So can we read it with doing that, or we're taking those out?
Okay, a person giving public comment is limited to an established time limit of 3 minutes. Statement should be brief and concise. The board chair has discretion to waive time limits or extend the overall time allotted for public comment. Additional time will be allotted in a fair and equitable manner. If a person has more comments than time allows or is unable to comment due to time constraints, the person is encouraged to submit additional written comments to the board through the district office as directed.
Okay.
6. No, I don't see where the first bracket is.
I don't either, there's several of those.
Inquiries from the public during the designated portion of the agenda will not generally be responded to immediately by the board chair and may be referred to the superintendent for reply at a later date. The board will not respond to inquiries that are expected to be addressed during another designated portion of the agenda. Yeah.
I think that first bracket was probably the word the.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The board will not hear public comment at board work sessions.
Yes.
Topics raised during the public comment portion may be considered for inclusion as agenda items at future board meetings.
Yes.
Mhm.
Procedures for written comment. Members of the public may submit written comments or materials to the board at any time at the district office by mail or email to insert email address. So we should have our, because we have
A district email.
a district, like a webmaster,
Mhm. That's where it should go to.
and all the complaints go there, so add. Make it up to Karen to add that email address.
Yeah.
Chris has that.
Webmaster.
Materials or comments submitted at least 72 hours in advance of a board meeting will be provided to the board before the board meeting, but will not be read at the board meeting. Written materials or comments submitted may not warrant action by the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, take the parentheses out on that one. That one's
You
good.
don't want, but will not be read at the board meeting?
Yeah,
Or do you want the brackets out or the sentence out?
I want it in, I want the sentence in.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to say that we're going to read everything at the board.
Got you. So the brackets come out.
Comments regarding staff members. A person speaking during the designated portion of the agenda of public comment may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs. The board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. The board chair will direct the visitor to the procedures and board policy KL public complaints. Like that,
Yes.
take off the brackets there. Published complaint procedures for consideration of a legitimate complaint involving a staff member. Any association contract governing the employee's rights will be followed. A commendation involving a staff member should be sent to the superintendent, who will forward it to the employees, the supervisor, and the board.
I think that last sentence needs to be included.
Commendation involving a staff member, keep that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I like to know when staff members have gone up over and beyond call of duty.
Okay, you good there?
we're good.
Okay.
Okay, that was BBBH, correct? Right. That was the new version, so this is the old one that they want us to deliberate.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, it's after 5.
Oh, okay, so should we stop?
We probably should.
Are we deleting the AR?
No, this was just the policy that we just went through.
We're gonna BBBH and we're gonna BBBH AR.
Right, yeah, they say, when they say to delete, we usually have to delete because of legality.
Okay,
So
So that-
71 is also, that page is deleted.
okay.
Yeah.
72 is the next policy.
I'll go as long as anybody wants to go. It's up to you all.
How about we just establish the next meeting?
Okay.
So Brad, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and figure out. what-
Okay, yeah, we're close, right? And we've got just a few left here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
Brad.
We got 29 more to go.
Yeah.
I
we'll get
think
another meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
We'll do that.
Okay, that works for me.
But we left off on CM.
That's correct. Page 72.
No, we left off on BBBHAR.
No, that's delete.
No.
No,
But
that's
they-
the
Oh, I
AR
see it,
that
I
goes
see it, I
with
see
it.
it, I see it. You have to read it. I'm sorry, I
We're
see
gonna
it.
take over SCM, correct?
Yeah,
No.
page 69.
Yeah, 69 is where we would start. Okay, what date would be good?
Usually a Thursday.
It is, I believe, let's see. all
Thursday the
day.
9th. It's Thursday the 9th.
Okay, can you do that?
Now that I don't work over the mountain, I totally can adjust my schedule.
3 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what day did you say?
Oh, I have a regional subcommittee meeting while I'm at Career Academy
What is it?
at 3:30. 3:30 to 4:30. I can't get somebody to take the minutes for me and come to this because there's some high school stuff, graduation stuff, I think, coming up at one of the policies. So if it suits everybody else, I'll make it work.
Oh, Karen, send out an.
Well, and we might have, also up here.
Right, but there's some historical stuff. I read through the policies a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So, but I can do either, and I can talk to you beforehand, Brett.
Hey, thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate
I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 5:08.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, they'll be happy.
I was hoping we'd get out by 5:15 because